by the phone now. They used to let you type it, but they didn't make you do it.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 11th, 2020 Ascension Parish Utilities Committee meeting. Corey Ogeron, I am the chairman. Ms. Tiffany, would you do a roll call for us, please?
Travis Turner,
Here.
Joel Robert, Alvin Coach Thomas.
Here.
Aaron Lawler,
He's absent. He's
Absent.
excused, yes.
Terry Casso,
Yeah, I'm sitting in.
Corey Orgeron.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. At this time, I'm asking Coach to lead us in invocation and pledge.
Let's bow our heads, please. Most Heavenly Father, as we come at this hour in the evening, we come with praise, come with honor, and come, Lord, to say, Lord, we thank you. Oh, Father, as we come, Lord, we ask that you give us direction in handling parish business. Lord, I ask that you bless each and every person here under the sound of my voice. And Lord God, as we leave this place tonight, I ask that you allow us to get home safe and sound. We ask this in your name. God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all.
The chair has no additions this evening. Public comment period. Do we have anyone present for public comment? I take that as a no since I don't see anyone running to the podium. Agenda item number 5, approval of the minutes. We have minutes from the January 30th
Motion.
meeting. Motion from Councilman Turner, second from Councilman Robert. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion pass. Next item on the agenda, we have a director's report from Mr. Ken Dawson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Not a lot on director's report at this particular time. A lot of things that we're still gathering information and doing a few things, but I do want to say that we've been having meetings with engineering firms, kind of firming up, the status of some of the projects that they've been doing, determining go forward, those kind of things, so we can gather good information as to where we need to do and how we need to proceed. You will be getting reports on that, pretty soon. Other thing I wanted to do is to kind of schedule some time with you to invite you to the utility department to see some of the treatment systems, to go over to the treatment system over in Donaldsonville to see what we're doing with water, have an opportunity for you to understand some of the projects that we're working with that, just give you more detailed information. And so I'd like to invite you or to get with Jenny or anyone with the utility department to schedule those meetings. I think that it'll be a good opportunity to see all the things that they're doing. We want to talk stormwater with you, the program that we're doing there, what we're doing in PUA, the water systems, the improvements we have there, the projects that we have with sewer that we have to try to do for some of the upgrades that we have on some of the old systems, and just kind of brief you guys on it. I know we have several new people, on the committee, so with that, I invite you to schedule some time, and we'll take as much time as you need to go through everything, okay?
Mr. Dawson, do you have access to personnel individuals that report to you, as far as those that are currently reporting and those that we have lost in the last 30 days or so?
Access to individual. The ones that are currently reporting directly to me, yes, okay. Those people, yeah, I have access to those. Last 30 days, I'm not sure who those are, but yeah, the ones that are reporting directly to me, I do.
Okay. Could you prepare a report on those individuals and present that to us? Well, obviously, we'll have to go in executive session, but could you present that to us for the next Utilities Committee meeting?
Sure.
Appreciate
You want just who they are and their duties? That kind of,
Who they
sure.
are, what their duties are, so we can see the hierarchy, so we know what's going on and who's in charge of what.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Sure, and one thing, that'll be fine, no problem doing that. Also, when you come to utility department, you'll get a chance to meet all of them, and the goal was to have them to kind of talk to you about what their duties are and what they're responsible for, but also prepare that for you.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you much.
You're welcome.
Next item on the agenda, the approval of change order number 1. That is the EP Bro Electrical LLC for the PUA ground storage electrical modifications, CWEF FY 2015-2016, CWEF grant number 1516, CWEF ASC 0001, parish grant number 1701S, to add a 150 amp breaker in the new MCC for future pump for an additional amount of $14,884.72 for a total budget amount of $120,000. Mr. Fleming, can you report on that for us, please?
Yes, Committee Chair. This grant was something that was submitted on, as you can see by the date, in 2015. We applied for it. It got approved in 2016, and you have a set amount of time to get the work done. Our time frame on this one was all work needs to be completed by February 12th, 13th. So it was something that it was kind of late getting out. We got it put out, I think it bid last October. They got the contracts in December. We met with them earlier this year on it. We told them that, you know, since the bids came in under the original budget, we wanted to go ahead and plan for our future growth, which is why we have the change order of the 150 amp breaker. Unfortunately, the expediting price was in order to be able to get the project done, because all work has to be completed before the set date. So we
Before
had
Thursday.
Before Thursday, yes, sir. And as I understand it, they're done with the project. So you know, it's all kind of a necessary item. And since it got caught in between sessions, we tried to get it in December when we found out about it, but we weren't able to get it back then with the change of council and everything like that. So, but these prices have all been vetted and they're good. So it's just kind of trying to close out the contract.
Great. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Any objection? Motion passes.
Thank you.
And while you're up there, Mr. Fleming, would you please give us your water report?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so the way these water loss reports and it's a big combination of reports. I got here in July, and kind of they were giving reports one way. We've kind of modified them, for the September, we started changing the reports to that way, so to try to more accurately give a better representation of the water loss. So that way we get to try to start seeing trends in the water. Right now, this has October through December's reports. So I'm going to go over one of them, and then from then, so I don't have to regurgitate the same thing. It's going to be the same pattern. It's just the numbers are going to change. So as we're starting with the water audit report, I'm looking at October. Is that the first one y'all have?
Yes.
Okay. So starting at the top, the volume from the own source is how much water is coming out of Bayou Lafourche and coming into our system. The filtered water is how much we're putting out after it goes through our treatment process. The ACUD PUE, ACUD 1 purchases water from Assumption Parish. So there's a water meter at the tie-in location, and we take that number from that water meter is how we come up with that 6. So the 48 million becomes our total volume input for the system. So that combines our produced water and the water purchased from ACUD 1, or I'm sorry, Assumption. Then we have it broke down between PUA and ACUD 1 because they are two separate systems, both on our records and through LDH's record keeping. The leaks are going to be things like your water breaks, like we had the other day where there was a water line that bust that unfortunately caused the temporary boiling. It was, we try to localize it as much as possible, but it's something we calculate. It's a calculated amount, and we do it based off of pipe size and approximate, how big the hole was, if it's a full hole, what the pressure was at that time. We try to make it as concrete as possible. So manual flushing, that's going to be for, to follow LDH guidelines, we have to periodically test our water to make sure we're delivering good quality water. Sometimes when we see things change, the water temperature, and we're alerted to something, sometimes we'll do an auto flush where we're just cleaning out the line, making sure the water stays within the limits. That never means that it's over the limits. It just means we have a standard operating range that we like to keep our water at, and it's fluctuating a little bit. So we're doing some precautionary flushing. Auto flushing, that is our standard flushing of our systems. That way, when you have an end of a long run, you have to flush that water out of there, because if the water's not moving, it causes it to degrade the quality. Our sample stations, that's where we go and take our samples. Some of our sample stations leak, so that way they have a steady drip, so that way water's kind of still moving through it. That way in that sample station, there's no necessarily contaminants from water being stagnant within that little section. Going down the next line, the fire department testing, that is for periodically the fire department will go out and test the water pressure in each of the lines. They'll check flow, they'll check pressure, they make sure there's nothing wrong with the hydrant, kind of keeping up with, public safety. And then the final item is total process water. Excuse me. So that number is only on PUA because that is our water production loss. So that is anytime we have to do a cleaning, a flushing of our filters, a flushing of our, we have to take the water down in each of our chambers to clean them out. That all gets added into that total process water number. So the ACUD mimics the PUA. You have your leaks, auto flushing, sample stations, and your fire department testing, because we do have fire department connections on both sides. And those numbers will all fluctuate every month. The bottom column, the last section, is the adjusted input volume. So this is our billed amount of how much we're actually billing all of our customers. And that's reflected in our bills and our revenue. And that gives us our total amount of water unaccounted for. October, there was 7.5 million unaccounted for. Part of this discrepancy is because when we take our readings from our volume of our own source, that's taking on the first of the month and the last day of the month. PUA bills 3 times a month. I believe they bill on they bill 3 times a month. It's like the 8th, the 14th, and the 18th, I think, are the 3 times they send out bills. ACUD 1, they get billed once a month. So there's a little bit of overlap on where you're billing at. So in theory, over a period of 4 months, there should be a fairly consistent, and we've kind of seen that through the last 4 months of last year, where 1 month's really high, another month's low, and it kind of averages out to where it's pretty close. So that's your water audit report. Would you have any questions about that, or would you like me to continue to the rest of it and then?
I'm with the report. I want to thank you for putting all this together for us. Does anyone else have questions? Mr. Robert?
You say whenever you identify any of the leaks, you flush out depending on how much was exposed and how much pressure and whatnot. Typically, at these different locations where you have identified these leaks, is it the same type material that's under there that is leaking? How severe is it? What's going on with it to make it leak?
So whenever we get to the actual leak reports, you'll see where we actually track to see what type of pipe it is, the diameter, because There isn't one type of pipe in there. The system was originally put in the early 1900s, and it's been modified and added to on ever since. ACUD 1 is a newer system because through a grant, or through a loan, they were able to do an expansion and redo a bunch of their piping. So
So I would guess the oldest pipe would be cast iron, or?
we have some ceramic. They're pretty much A to Z. We have ceramic, there's some cast, there's some plastic,
Okay.
galvanized, yes. I mean, you you pick it, name it, there, it's in there.
Okay.
Coach?
Are there any plans for changing out any of the pipes, the older pipes?
Yes, currently there's a contract with USDA where we are looking at doing renovations to the plant and the distribution system. It's mainly focused on ACUD. It's mainly focused on the PUA water system. It's going to replace a lot of the lines that we're having problems with. It's going to be a large section of the replacement on those lines, and we can get you all the exact number on line replacements. The water plant side's about 95% done, and then the distribution side's probably closer to 50 because there's a lot more of determining what lines are where. There's a lot of exploring, surveying work that they're having to do with making sure they give us a good product.
Do you have a number of pipes that you have targeted that you would be changing out in the different areas? Do you have that?
I don't have it on me. If I remember correctly, it's like 34,000 feet of pipe.
The area, you would know the area that you're doing this,
It's all in the PUA system, which is mostly inside Donaldsonville.
inside the city limits?
It's not just inside the city limits, but it's trying to think of. So this is something we can go into further. As it's better if you have a map, because there's a lot of lines that ACUD 1 and PUA run parallel to each other. So it's not like you could say that everything from one side of the area is all PUA and one side's all ACUD 1. There are some sections of
Mr. Fleming, if it would be okay with you and the administration, would you have a problem bringing us those maps and kind of giving us that illustration at the next meeting?
No, sir, not at all. I'll be
Appreciate
happy
it. Great, thanks.
to show those to y'all.
Still, yeah. I got, my next question is, I had a lot of calls for water loss. What's the situation with that? What would be the situation? I mean,
Well, the way
I've been having a lot of calls. They've been calling myself. I'm needing to call.
Yeah, I'll tell you, as far as the A-bend area, around where I am, I've had calls throughout where it's not necessarily complete loss, but what's happening is it's a almost stop in pressure to where it goes, they say, to almost a drop at times. I guess you're trying to get at where those are being accessed, and he'll bring the map so we can look at it.
Well, as y'all know, we have the call center, and anything that comes in through the call center, we get a record of it. And anything from, there's a smell, there's a loss in pressure, my bill's too high, any A to Z, it gets logged in there, and then they in turn create a work order and go examine the situation.
Mr. Dawson, would you come back up to the podium real quick? I have a question, a favor to ask of you. Mr. Fleming, please. I'm not trying to take any of your time, but I figure I'll point to the bigger guy in this situation. I understand that we're trying to point the citizens towards the center. And I have a feeling that that's a slow process in certain areas. I know District 4, I'm still trying to get with my neighbors and reminding them to go that particular route. Do you think that we could maybe hold some sort of an open house, some sort of an introduction to the call center, to the folks over?
Like a grand opening type deal.
To the folks
Give the
over
message out.
on the West Bank, and then we see how successful that is, and maybe we can do it in various locations here on the East Bank?
I wouldn't have a problem with it. Administration, approves it. That's not an issue. Because one thing that the reason why the call center was established, because there were work orders that were not tracked.
Correct.
And when the councilman wanted to know the status of a work order, there was no tracking of it, and they couldn't find it. And so the call center was established so that anybody calls in, that particular item is given a work number. The ladies that work over there, they make sure that it's given to the right department. And then if they call in to get a status of it, they can get a status of where that is.
Sure.
So that's no problem with getting the information out, because the public needs to know that this is available to them. I even had some councilmen ask about tracking something, and I said, look, have your constituents call the call center, and they, some would have been pleased. Now, there could be backlogs and things, but I think with the utilities, they have been performing pretty quickly at answering, those issues with the call center.
Okay. Ms. Castle?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I have been seeing on Channel 21 constant updating of the screen with the call center information on it. I see a lot of it on Facebook. I just encourage you to continue to push that out there.
We will.
So I was just saying, I was one of the council.
I wouldn't mind adding that we don't only just accept calls from the call center. Every time we send out a bill, it has our phone number for our office. So they, a lot of times, will call our office instead of calling the call center. And anytime we get a call like that, we still log it under my project, so that way we have a way to track it. That way, that person is not calling 3 or 4 times and having something that's not being investigated.
Okay. I appreciate it. Coach, I think you have one more?
There are two more.
Two more questions from Coach.
Two more questions. My next question is I paid my water bill last week, 2 weeks ago. The lady seen a change in the water bill, and I asked her what was the change for, and she explained to me that there was a one-time fee. Every year your water bill be going up, is what she explained to me at City Hall. What's the truth in that?
So last
One-time raise, every year the bill will
Yeah.
go up.
That's-
Not every month, because I asked her, is it going up every month?
No,
Or is this
sir.
gonna be
So
every year?
last year, the council approved, as part of our USDA project that we're doing with the water plant and the distribution system, was, as you know, if you're doing a project, you have to prove a way to fund it. The water rates had not gone up in Donaldsonville for PUA in a long time. So we were bringing the rates up to current. But instead of having a one-time rate increase, they decided to do it in 2 phases, so that way everybody wasn't hit with a big rate jump at one point. It was done, the first one was enforced, or was starting on the billing was July of last year. And customers saw their first bill increase come in August, because they billed for the month that they used in July, so they got their bill in August. Now it went in January 1st of this year was the second part of that increase. So the February bill that everybody's going to see was the result from that, will be the result from that increase.
So my question is this gonna be a recurring every year? That your water bill is gonna be going up, or what?
I mean,
Not to that extent, huh? Or not to that.
I'll have to relook at what the ordinance was before I speak on a yearly increase. I'm not sure on that.
I think there was a ceiling somewhere, though, so we'll get that too. But may I just?
And the
kinda
reason
give-
for it, Mr. Bill, the reason for that water bill hike was, he was telling me was,
For the
Yeah, the hike.
plant
What was the hike
rehabilitation
for?
and
Yeah.
the redoing the lines and the distribution system.
and this was clearly brought to the public for us, letting them know what
Yes, sir.
was coming.
This was all done before I got here, and it went through the council and it went through all the proper channels. I believe they had public meetings on it, and the council voted and approved it.
Okay. All right, one other question I got, but you would be able to let me know whether the bill will be going.
Yes, we'll get the ordinance.
I'd like
and
to,
see.
I would
Yes,
love
sir.
to know
Yes, sir.
if it'll be a recurring thing for the next year also.
Yes, sir.
Also, I'd like to ask you about I had someone talking to me about the water meter readers. are they, trained certified meter readers? Are they just, I'm not sure. Let me rephrase the question. The meter readers that read the meters, are they certified and trained to read those meters? Because I had some questions that we didn't have trained certified water meters, readers. And it was messing up on the water bill, because one bill would be 1 month, it would be 50, the next month it'd be 100, and the next month it'd be something else.
Well, that,
So I'm not sure what, if you can explain that to me, let me know what.
Let me just, for certifications, the only certifications I'm aware of are those operators at the plant. I don't know if there's a certification for meter readers of, a registry of certification. But speaking with Floyd, who handles the meter readers, I mean, he trains them of exactly what they need to do. to make
He's
sure that-
certified?
Huh?
Is he certified?
Well, that's not a certification for
Do
meter
you
readers.
need a certificate, in other words, okay, do you really need a certified reader, water meter reader? Do you need that to read the meters? Is it required?
No, it's not required. It's not, there's not a certification that we've even never looked at that said that this is what it takes to read a meter. They normally just train as to the operation of going in and just taking a meter read, okay? So, and Floyd trains them. And normally when they're, now again, I mean, this has kind of been a month since I've been back in there, but when there is an increase, like if there is a delta in that reading that they get from a house, they just don't take it and just send it. If there's a large delta, they evaluate it, probably go out and get a reread to make sure that they're not charging people above what that rate needs to be. Because if you got a read like this, that's been the number, then all of a sudden you have this, that means that something happened. So we go back and identify whether there was a leak in the house, whether something was happening, or whether there was a problem with the reading.
Thank you. Satisfied, Coach?
No, I still, one other question, are we able to talk about the,
We would need to go to executive session if you were
yeah,
talking
would,
about
yeah.
personnel.
well, we need to go in executive session, talk about personnel.
Okay. So at
No
this-
item on the
There's no item
agenda
on the
that's
agenda,
relative
you
to
can't.
personnel, so that would have to be put on the agenda at a future meeting and done in executive session.
So let's do that, 'cause I take it we're not going to get a unanimous vote to add it to the agenda tonight. Okay. So I'll make sure it's on next month's.
Please,
I will do so. Just make sure to remind me. We're done unless there's something else.
Just one thing to talk about the increases. When we initially acquired People's Water, the initial goal was to get a 28 to 30% increase to deal with all of the piping. We always knew there were issues with the distribution system and to do that. We didn't do it at the time, and that's why you see a kind of phase-in approach here. When we bought People's Water, they actually were going to the PSC, Public Service Commission, for a 50-something% increase just for repairs. And they could have gotten almost a 60 to 70% increase because they hadn't had one in such a long time. So, and I even had a letter, from the people stating that. So what we tried to do is just to come up with a rate that would dealing with the issues we had with the distribution system. And as Gavin said, the plan is not only to deal with the distribution system, but to improve some of the processes at the plant as well through this USDA.
now, also, I'm gonna be quiet, this is the last question. For us to going up on the bills, $10 for me or you won't be much, but $10 or 15 or whatever it is that's being raised to the people on the west bank of the river, to the majority of the people, let me say that, majority of the folks that's on the west bank of the river, $10, I mean, it makes a difference,
Understood?
So, I mean, if we would look at trying to keep things at a minimum,
Sure.
and I know we have expenses that we have to do, but I can't see going up on the water bill every year.
Mr. Dawson, is there a plan or I guess, is there a plan in place that you guys have to give you an opportunity to assess the necessity to do rate increases? And is there some way that you can provide us with a report that would give us some kind of an inclination as to the necessity of those and if we can see any
Sure.
increases going forward?
Sure, absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Okay, and keep in mind, some of the issues with the age of your water system. You have
Certainly.
galvanized pipe, you have ceramic. If you remember I think it was maybe in East Feliciana, when we had an issue, mainly because of the distribution system, where they had boil water, situation, and they took a plastic bottle and showed the color of the water and say it was anybody could drink it. So the goal is that we don't want to react, we want to be proactive in looking at it, and I agree with you, the goal is to do this in a way that it doesn't put hardship on the people
Right.
in the area, but also, we want to make sure they get quality water. We don't want another Michigan to happen when
No,
we have
no.
a situation where we have quality water that was not suitable. So we're going to make sure that we do everything we can to provide that.
Well, that's the case. Could you give us that report next month
Absolutely.
also?
Absolutely.
Appreciate it very much, sir. Thank you. Anybody questions? Joel has another question.
I got a question for you, Mr. Dawson. I kind of let you walk the last few steps on purpose, I'm sorry.
Get my step.
As far as reading the meters, are they read on a regular basis every month? And the reason I ask that is because I've dealt with a private water company where they'll read it every several months and then take that reading and kind of average it out. So if there's a leak or if there's something or there's a big spike, you don't notice it for a long time. It's a huge increase.
Well, I think we read it every month, right?
Yeah, we read every month.
Every
We
meeting
have our
every month?
routes and we send our guys on it, and we make sure that everything's
Okay,
done
that's all I have.
correctly.
Right.
And like we say, we double check anything that shows a spike. Our staff does a good job of calling people and letting them know as much as possible, if there's gonna be any big change.
Appreciate it very much, gentlemen. Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Well, we're at that point. Agenda item number 9. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Meeting adjourned.